Mia was restless. Something about Sherlock, her faithful golden retriever, had changed. He was no longer the playful and cheerful dog that used to run around the yard. In recent days, he seemed distant, always retreating to the kennel and isolating himself, something he had never done before. Sherlock used to be the life of the house, always nearby, lying at Mia's feet or following her every move. But now his steps led him straight to the kennel, where he would sit for hours, motionless as if guarding a secret. The change did not go unnoticed. Luke, her husband, tried to reassure her, saying it could just be a phase or some physical discomfort. "He'll be back to normal, Mia," he said, attempting to comfort her. But Mia knew there was something deeper going on. It wasn't just the distant behavior. There was something in Sherlock's gaze, a sadness she had never seen before. He seemed to be struggling with something, but didn't know how to ask for help. One morning when she woke up, Mia noticed that Sherlock wasn't at the foot of the bed as usual. She hurried downstairs, her heart already heavy, and found him sitting in the yard, staring intently at the kennel. He was motionless, with his snout slightly lowered, as if he was guarding a secret he couldn't share. Mia approached slowly, but when she tried to pet his head, Sherlock backed away, something he never did. "Are you okay, buddy?" she asked softly, but he didn't move. He just looked at her, and something in his eyes made Mia's heart race. She glanced at the kennel, wondering what could be inside. Why was Sherlock so fixated on that place? Luke entered the kitchen, observing the interaction between Mia and the dog from a distance. "Maybe it's best if we take him to the vet," he suggested, while preparing coffee. Mia nodded, but she knew that although there could be something physical, this felt more emotional. Sherlock was going through something she couldn't understand. In the following days, Mia began to watch Sherlock more closely. The dog no longer lay at her feet while she read, nor did he get excited for their daily walks. He was always heading back to the kennel, and Mia's anxiety only grew. Sherlock remained still, attentive to the kennel, almost like a guardian of a secret. During one especially quiet night, Mia awoke to a soft whimpering coming from the yard. She went to the window and saw Sherlock lying at the kennel's door, his snout pressed to the ground. Mia felt a pang of guilt. There was something there that Sherlock wanted to show her, something important to him, but she still couldn't figure out what it was. With each passing day, the mystery deepened, and Mia's anguish grew. Finally, after several attempts to understand Sherlock's behavior, Mia and Luke decided to take him to Dr. Thompson, the family's longtime veterinarian. In the office, Sherlock was quiet, lacking the energy he usually displayed during visits like this. Dr. Thompson conducted a thorough examination and revealed that Sherlock had an ear infection and some parasites, which could explain part of his strange behavior. "Let's start treatment and hopefully he'll be back to normal soon," Dr. Thompson said. Mia breathed a sigh of relief, but a part of her still felt that there was something more. Even after the diagnosis, Sherlock didn't seem to be just physically unwell. There was a deeper concern he was carrying. Back home with Sherlock medicated, Mia decided to take action. While the dog rested after his treatment, she took the opportunity to investigate the kennel. The place had always been clean and organized, nothing special about it, but now she felt a chill just approaching it. When she opened the worn wooden door, she saw what Sherlock had been trying to hide. In the corner, under an old blanket he had dragged there, were small pieces of fabric, leaves, and some old toys. It was an improvised hiding place, as if Sherlock was guarding something that Mia still couldn't fully understand. When Sherlock returned from his rest, he went straight to the kennel, looked at Mia, who now knew of his little secret, but still didn't fully comprehend what it meant. The look in Sherlock's eyes was one of needing help, yet not knowing how to express it. Mia, with a heavy heart, wondered what he was really protecting. "I don't know what's happening to you, but I will find out," she murmured to herself, determined to understand her beloved dog's behavior. In the days that followed, Mia became increasingly disturbed. Sherlock seemed to be physically recovering with the treatment, but his strange behavior persisted. He continued to isolate himself in the kennel, and now that Mia had discovered the improvised hiding place, the mystery only grew. Every time she tried to approach, Sherlock would block the entrance as if protecting something valuable. It was as if he was in constant vigil. His behavior reflected a pain Mia still couldn't reach, but was becoming more evident. One afternoon, she decided to try to connect with Sherlock differently. She grabbed one of the old balls he used to love and went out to the yard. "Sherlock, come here, buddy, let's play a little," she called softly, trying to bring back her old friend. For a moment, he watched her from inside the kennel, his eyes conveying deep weariness. He slowly got up and walked over to her, but without the same energy as before. Sherlock took the ball in his mouth, but instead of playing, he carried it back to the kennel and carefully placed it next to the other objects he had been hoarding. Mia watched with a heavy heart. He was building a little sanctuary. Everything she had found before, the toys, the blankets, was part of something bigger that he protected with all his being. But what was it? Why? Mia's frustration grew as Sherlock seemed to sink deeper into his own pain. One night, while Luke was already asleep, Mia got up and went to the kitchen. As she passed by the window, she saw Sherlock lying outside the kennel. He wasn't sleeping. He was awake, his eyes fixed on the inside of the small shelter, as if something within it demanded all his attention. Mia could no longer bear that feeling of helplessness. She needed to discover what was causing so much suffering to her beloved dog. The next day, while Sherlock was still a bit drowsy from his medication, Mia saw her chance to investigate further. She waited for him to leave the kennel for a few minutes and quickly entered. This time she went deeper, exploring every corner. That's when she found something that made her heart race. Under a pile of leaves and a piece of blanket were 3 tiny kittens, curled up and barely breathing. Mia could hardly believe her eyes. Sherlock had been protecting the kittens all this time. He had found them and, in his instinct to protect, had done everything to keep them safe, even at the cost of his own well-being. She knelt down, feeling a mix of relief and sorrow. The answer was right there, but the emotional weight of that discovery was almost overwhelming. "Sherlock," Mia murmured, tears welling up in her eyes. He had been caring for them alone. Sherlock was suffering, not for himself, but for the responsibility he had taken on. He knew the kittens needed care and had shouldered the burden of protecting them at all costs. That was the secret he carried, and it was consuming him. She picked them up gently, feeling how weak and fragile their little bodies were. Sherlock approached slowly, lying down beside Mia, watching her with tired but calm eyes, as if he was finally relieved to share that burden. "Why didn't you tell me before?" Mia whispered, stroking his head affectionately. "You didn't have to do this alone." The connection between them at that moment was indescribable. Sherlock had chosen to protect those innocent lives, even when he himself was sick. He had fought to keep the kittens alive while hiding his suffering, so as not to alarm his family. Mia felt a tight knot in her throat. The responsibility he had taken on without anyone knowing showed how deep his love and protective instinct were. With the kittens in her arms, Mia brought them inside the house. Sherlock followed slowly, exhausted, but finally with a look of calm. He had fulfilled his mission, and now it was Mia's turn to care for the kittens. "Luke, we need help," she called, her voice thick with emotion. Luke woke up quickly, confused, until he saw Mia with the kittens and Sherlock lying at her feet. Mia's look said it all. They knew they would now need to care for those little beings just as Sherlock had done. Luke approached Mia, his expression still confused, but when he saw the kittens nestled in her arms and Sherlock lying at her feet, understanding finally dawned on him. Luke's eyes filled with compassion as he grasped what their dog had been doing all those days. "Mia, are those—" He couldn't finish the sentence, but he didn't need to. Mia's gesture, with tears gently streaming down her face, spoke for itself. Sherlock, now visibly relieved, watched the kittens in silence, as if he could finally trust his family to help with the burden he had carried alone until then. His breathing was slow and heavy, but he was no longer alone in that journey. Luke ran his hand over the dog's head, feeling the tension dissipate. "You were amazing, buddy. You took care of them all by yourself." "And we didn't even notice," Luke whispered, his voice thick. The two humans exchanged glances, feeling the weight of the situation. Sherlock had been fighting to save those kittens from the start, and even while facing his own pain, he never gave up. It was as if he knew no one else could help them, So he took on the responsibility of protecting those small, defenseless lives. Mia, still cradling the kittens in her arms, began to feel a mix of guilt and admiration. How had she not noticed before? Sherlock had always been there, loyal, dedicated, and she hadn't seen what he was going through. At the same time, a deep admiration grew within her. Sherlock had a heart larger than she could imagine. He wasn't just a dog. He was a protector, a being capable of sacrifices few humans would make. That same afternoon, they took the kittens to the veterinarian. They were weak and dehydrated, but there was still hope. While waiting in the waiting room, Mia stroked Sherlock, feeling how he seemed relieved to finally have someone sharing the responsibility. He had devoted himself to keeping those kittens safe, and now that his mission was partially fulfilled, he seemed calmer, as if he knew he was no longer alone. Dr. Thompson greeted them, not hiding his surprise at seeing Mia with the 3 tiny kittens in her arms and Sherlock by her side, now looking exhausted, but at peace. "Are these the kittens he was taking care of?" he asked as he examined the little ones. Mia simply nodded, struggling to hold back tears. "He found them and protected them. We had no idea." The veterinarian carefully examined the kittens. Although they were weak, they had a real chance of survival. Dr. Thompson recommended specific care, special feeding, and observation over the next few weeks. It was a battle, but there was hope. When they returned home, Sherlock, who typically sat next to Mia on the couch or played in the yard, this time lay on the floor near the makeshift bed they had made for the kittens. He watched them with a serenity that Mia had never seen before. He knew he had fulfilled his mission, yet his presence remained constant, as if he were ensuring that nothing else would happen to them. "You don't need to worry anymore, Sherlock," Mia said softly. "We'll take care of them together, okay?" But even with Mia's words, Sherlock still seemed to refuse to fully rest. He kept a watchful eye on the kittens, as if that were his final task in life. The burden he had carried had left deep marks on him, and Mia knew that it wouldn't resolve overnight. The following days were dedicated to caring for the kittens. Mia and Luke took turns feeding them, while Sherlock was always nearby, monitoring every movement. As the kittens grew stronger, Mia noticed something different in Sherlock's behavior. He remained alert, but a new calmness had settled in. It was as if, watching the kittens begin to recover, he was also finding his way back. One night, when Mia finally managed to lie down next to Sherlock, she felt the weight of his relaxed breathing. The tension that had consumed him had lessened, and for the first time in a long while he was sleeping deeply, without getting up to check on the kennel. Mia lay there, watching him sleep, and felt a wave of gratitude and love for that dog who had sacrificed so much. She never imagined Sherlock would go through something like this, and now, more than ever, she understood how special he was. He was not just a dog, he was a guardian, a protector, who would do anything to save those he loved, even if it meant carrying the burden of care alone. When Sherlock finally rested, Mia knew that the weight he carried was not just physical. It was proof of his immense heart, one that she might never be able to repay completely. As the days passed, the kittens began to show signs of recovery. With each new movement, Mia and Luke felt more confident that they were on the right path to saving them. Sherlock, while showing some relief for having shared the responsibility, still remained attentive. He never strayed too far from the kittens, always keeping a close watch, as if he knew his work was not yet completely done. One morning, while Mia was preparing the bottle for the kittens, Sherlock approached, resting his head against her leg, a gesture he hadn't made in a long time. It was a small act, but to Mia, it meant the world. She knelt down and hugged him, feeling the warmth of his tired body, but finally at peace. "You were so brave, my friend," she whispered, as he looked at the kittens with tenderness. He had done his part, and now Mia and Luke were there to continue. Even with the kittens' recovery, something still lingered in the air. Mia couldn't shake the feeling that, although Sherlock seemed to be feeling better, he still appeared somewhat restless. There was something more he knew that she had yet to uncover. His gaze sometimes drifted toward the yard, as if he were waiting for something or someone. This sensation troubled Mia. One afternoon, while Sherlock was lying in the sun in the yard, Mia decided it was time to investigate further. The memory of the old toys and the leaves in the kennel still weighed on her mind. Sherlock had dragged those items from somewhere, and she felt that it had a purpose greater than mere comfort for the kittens. Walking around the yard, Mia began to explore the more remote areas. Behind a large bush, she noticed something partially covered by dirt and dry leaves. As she crouched down to look closely, she found a small cross made of twigs. The shape was simple, but it was clear that it was not something natural. Someone, or something, had placed it there. Mia's heart raced as she cleared the ground around the cross. Beneath it, what she discovered made her body freeze for a moment. The body of a cat. It was a devastating sight, and Mia understood immediately. This was the mother of the kittens that Sherlock had found. Everything made sense now. He wasn't just caring for the kittens, he was guarding the memory of their mother as well. His instinct had sensed that the kittens needed protection, but there was more. Sherlock had found the mother first, and when he realized she wouldn't survive, he took on the duty of caring for her little ones. Mia knelt beside the small improvised grave, tears streaming down her face. How much Sherlock had endured alone, carrying that burden, guarding the secret, and trying to save those he could. That was why he seemed restless. Even with the kittens safe, he was still mourning their mother. Sherlock slowly approached, sitting beside Mia. He looked at the place where the cross stood, and then at Mia, with an expression that seemed to convey everything he had been through. He had tried. He had done his best, but he couldn't save the kitten's mother. Still, he didn't give up. He cared for the little ones, keeping hope alive where others might have lost it. Mia ran her hand over Sherlock's head, feeling the weight of his suffering and struggle. "You did what you could," she said, her voice choked, "and it was more than enough." She stayed there with Sherlock for a while in silence. It wasn't just the story of the kittens that was being revealed. It was the story of a silent sacrifice, of courage beyond what anyone could imagine of a dog. He had fought for life, for love, for duty, and all of this without anyone knowing. Later, while properly burying the mother of the kittens and placing a small cross as a memorial, Mia felt that a part of Sherlock was beginning to heal as well. He stepped away from the grave with a lighter gait, as if the cycle of pain and sacrifice was finally coming to an end. Now, with the kittens strong and healthy, Sherlock could rest. He had been the guardian of a deep secret, bearing the weight of life and death in a way that Mia would never fully understand. But what she knew, without a shadow of a doubt, was that her dog was much more than a companion. He was a silent hero whose heart had protected those who needed him, even when no one else knew. That night, as Mia looked out the window and saw Sherlock finally sleeping peacefully beside the kittens, she realized there was something extraordinary about the unconditional love that animals could offer. Sherlock hadn't just saved the kittens. He had taught everyone there about sacrifice, about caring for those who cannot care for themselves, and about the strength we find in moments of extreme pain. "Thank you, Sherlock," Mia murmured to herself before closing her eyes and feeling, for the first time in weeks, that everything was finally at peace. In the following days, Sherlock seemed to have finally found the tranquility that had long eluded him. The kittens, now stronger and healthier, dashed around the house, filling the space with renewed joy. Mia and Luke took turns caring for the little ones, while Sherlock remained nearby, watching with a serenity that revealed the pride he felt in having fulfilled his mission. Mia felt an immense gratitude as she watched him there, resting more deeply each day, his constant vigil finally eased. Yet she also knew that Sherlock still harbored a remnant of that silent pain, the sacrifice he had made while protecting the kittens and dealing with the loss of their mother. There was something both beautiful and sad in how he accepted that burden without hesitation, as if he had known from the very beginning that his responsibility extended beyond any pain he himself might feel. Luke, who had always been more pragmatic, began to notice the emotional depth of everything that was happening. One afternoon, while Sherlock slept in the sun with the kittens curled up around him, he approached Mia in the kitchen. "He's amazing, isn't he?" he said, watching the scene through the window. Mia nodded, struggling against the emotion that rose inside her whenever she thought about everything Sherlock had endured. "I never knew he was capable of something like this. He protected us, protected those kittens, and never asked for anything in return." Luke took a deep breath, touching Mia's shoulder gently. He's shown us what it really means to care for someone. I don't know if I would have done what he did, Mia. Sherlock is different, more than we realize. Mia knew Luke was right. Sherlock had demonstrated a kind of love and dedication that transcended human understanding. And now that the kittens were out of danger, she felt it was time to return to him all the care and affection he had offered those little beings. That night, while the kittens slept together in an improvised bed in the corner of the living room, Mia sat beside Sherlock. He looked at her with his deep brown eyes, tired yet still filled with unwavering sweetness. "You've done so much for all of us, Sherlock," she said softly. "Now it's our turn to take care of you." Sherlock tilted his head as if he understood, then lay down in Mia's lap, finally allowing himself to relax. The weight he had carried for so long seemed to fade away in that moment, with the warmth and comfort he so richly deserved. The following days were filled with quiet moments of recovery for everyone. Sherlock continued to watch over the kittens, but now with a tranquility Mia had never seen before. He let them run around the yard, playing and exploring, but without the tension he had carried earlier. It was as if seeing that they were okay, Sherlock was healing as well. However, there was still one final piece to this puzzle. Mia couldn't forget the small cross made of twigs that she had found in the yard, near the grave of the cat. It was impossible for her to believe that it had appeared there by chance. Sherlock, in some way, had done that. He had understood the loss of the kitten's mother and marked the spot as a silent memorial, so that no one would forget what she meant. One night, while Mia and Luke sat in the yard, watching the kittens play under the soft light of the stars, Mia felt a wave of peace. Sherlock was lying beside them, his eyes fixed on the little ones, but there was something different in his gaze. It was no longer the weariness of before, nor the silent worry. It was a look of completeness, as if he knew that everything had resolved itself. "He's finally at peace," Mia whispered, feeling her emotions swell within her. Luke nodded, smiling faintly. "Yes, he did what he needed to do, and now I think we can all move forward." Mia looked at Sherlock, and with a deep affection in her heart whispered, "You've shown us what it means to love, Sherlock, and we will never forget that." Sherlock, as if understanding, closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Mia felt immense gratitude for that dog who had taught so much about sacrifice, care, and the true meaning of protection. He had done all of this in silence, without asking for anything in return, and now they could finally give him the rest he deserved. With the gentle breeze passing through the backyard and the soft sounds of the night in the background, Mia felt that their journey had come to an end. The kittens were healthy. Sherlock had fulfilled his mission, and everyone there, in one way or another, had learned a lesson about unconditional love. In the days that followed, Mia and Luke dedicated themselves to caring for the now healthy and playful kittens, while Sherlock finally seemed to rest after his long journey. Life in the house returned to normal, with the calm presence of the animals filling every corner. However, Mia still couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than they had uncovered. One morning, while organizing some items in the backyard, Mia found a small blanket that Sherlock had taken to the kennel. As she picked it up, she noticed something curious, a faded tag attached to one of the corners. Turning the fabric in her hands, she realized that the blanket was older than she thought, and there was a name written on it in handwriting. With her heart racing, Mia read the name. Whiskers. Whiskers. That name belonged to the cat. She wasn't just any stray animal that Sherlock had found. She belonged to someone, and somehow Sherlock knew that. Mia felt a wave of understanding wash over her as she remembered details from weeks earlier, when a cat used to appear in the yard, but always kept her distance. Sherlock must have known her from that time, protecting her from afar until something terrible happened, and he found the orphaned kittens. Determined to learn more, Mia went to the veterinarian, where she discovered that there was a backstory to that cat. Dr. Thompson, after examining the tag, recognized the name and recalled a woman who often visited the clinic with a cat named Whiskers, but had stopped coming months ago. She loved that cat dearly. It was her only companion, the veterinarian said gravely. The name of the cat's owner was Anna, an elderly woman who lived alone and, according to the veterinarian, had passed away recently. Mia, now with a heavy heart, understood everything. Whiskers had been left alone after Anna's death and somehow found her way to Sherlock's yard, seeking protection. When the cat died, Sherlock took on the role that Anna could no longer fulfill, caring for the kittens as if they were his own family. Back home, Mia couldn't hold back her tears. Sherlock hadn't just found the kittens. He knew they were all that remained of Whiskers, the cat who had lost her owner. He was protecting a legacy, a silent connection between lives that had crossed in a tragic yet meaningful way. As night fell, Mia and Luke sat in the backyard, with Sherlock and the kittens around them. The mystery that had lingered over them had finally revealed itself completely. Sherlock wasn't just caring for orphaned kittens, he was honoring the memory of a cat and a woman who in life had formed a special bond. Somehow Sherlock understood the depth of that loss and took on the responsibility of ensuring that those kittens would not face the same fate. Mia looked at Sherlock with a love that was hard to describe. He had done so much, all of it in silence without anyone noticing. Now everything made sense. The small cross in the yard, the hiding place for toys, and the fierce determination to protect the kittens. Sherlock had been more than a guardian. He had been a link between two stories that met at just the right moment. "You did much more than I could have imagined, my friend," Mia said, gently stroking Sherlock's head. "And we will never forget that." As the soft breeze swayed the leaves in the yard, Mia felt a deep peace, knowing that everything was finally in its place. Sherlock looked at her, his eyes shining with the serenity of one who had completed his mission. Life, in some way, had found a path to move forward, and everyone there, humans and animals alike, was connected by something much greater than themselves. The cycle of love and protection that Sherlock had begun would continue, and Mia knew deep down in her heart that he would always be the protector of what mattered, not just to the kittens, but to everything that meant family. We hope you enjoyed this narrative. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more heartwarming stories that touch the soul. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. We would love to hear what you think. Gratitude and critiques are also welcome. See you in the next emotional video. Until then.